Come hang with me today to learn 3 watercolor techniques for beginners while exploring this Prima set, the Woodland Color Collection, which I am loving. While I've been on a binging series on how to use all these different fun Prima watercolor sets, I thought I would take a moment and slow down. If you are a mixed media beginner artist and you're new to watercolors, I want to share with you 3 ways that you can work with them by themselves. So number 1, we will be talking about wet on wet applications. Number 2, we will be doing some wet on dry. And then number 3 is something that I don't see people using very often, but quite frankly, it's kind of the coolest of them all in my humble opinion, and that is doing dry brushing. So I'm going to talk about what all those are for, and I will allow you a sneak peek into a window of a project that I'm developing for my Celtic Collective Art Club. Let's start with number 1, which is wet on wet. What does that mean and what does it do? And super quick before I start the demonstration and then the project, I do just want to let you know the watercolors that I am using today, which are these Woodlands set, again by Prima. This is the 3rd Prima video I've done in a row with different sets. I really like them. I like them because their colors kind of all go together. I like them because they have cute words on them. I like them because even just the names of the sets I find very inspirational. So I just wanted to give you a quick peek. I'm not going to show me unwrapping them all like I normally do. You get the picture, but I just want to let you take a peek at the color selection before I dive in with the colors, just so you can get an idea of what is in this palette in case you're interested in it. I freaking love it, and I freaking love them all. Let's just kind of put it in that, and I'll fast forward to the sample so you can see all the colors. So this is what they look like when everything has been unwrapped. And quite frankly, I wish they would order the watercolors. This goes for all their sets. On the front cardboard package, they always have a lineup of the colors and then the title of the set. And the color lineup they have is always like spot on, but then they don't ever arrange the watercolors inside in that order. They're always very random looking to me. So just an observation. Now I'm keep doing these over and over. Okay, so obviously my only takeaway, I'm not gonna show me swatching all of these. My only takeaway is that if this is the first Prima or watercolor video you've ever watched of mine, please know that swatching is of the utmost importance, because the watercolors as they look on your paper are never, and I mean never, what they look like in the pans. So it's just super important that you did that. Now that I have my little rant out of the way, I'm going to show you what all they look like when they're all swatched. Okay, so as you can see, I am just about finished with these. And just in case you're wondering, I always swatch both the swatch cards that come with the watercolors, and you can see how out of order the colors appear to be. But I also swatch them in a separate art journal, and I will have the links to all the art supplies I'm using today in the description box below, as well as information on this art club, the Celtic Collective, which this lesson is for, as well as my 2 other art clubs. Everything, though, if you want to learn more, is over. You can read more at KarenCampbellArtist.com. So as you can see, they're really luscious. They really are very earthen colors. I was really struck by that yellow in particular. It's almost like green gold on steroids. Just kind of a funky shade, and I had a really fun time mixing that yellow daylight with that deep moss, which my students will laugh because I'm so lazy. I never mix my colors. I am a firm believer in it, completely embracing your art idiosyncrasies and just being weird about it and leaning into that instead of fighting it. So I have no problems not mixing, but it made the most beautiful hooker's green I've ever seen. So yay me, and let's get right into the painting demo now. What is wet on wet? In simplest terms, we wet our paper. As you can see here, see how wet that is? Okay. We wet our paper. I'm using this Juicy Mop Brush by Paulina Bright. Okay. You pick any color you want. Oh, Jesus. You get that nice and juicy. See how that's nice and juicy? Okay, so wet on wet is literally wet paint onto wet paper. Okay, you see how that is like, woo! And the best way to do this, my friends, is to try it for yourselves. So don't just look at me, come and do this with me. Like pause the video, go get out your paints, and come and doodle some doos with me. Okay, so I wet your paper, then take your big juicy watercolor brush. You can also try this on hot press or cold press. This is cold press. So it's got texture to it, and it's a little bit more like a sponge than hot press is really smooth. I do projects on both. I love them both, so I use them both. Okay, we don't need to belabor this. That's wet on wet. Wet on dry is literally wet paint onto dry paper, okay? Can you see immediately how the two are different, right? There's no floaty, weirdy, blah, 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 blahs. It's not fading. We're not getting any of this feathering effect. It's just burnt. Okay, so it's a much more distinct hard line. This is soft and squishy. Okay, so soft and squishy, wet on wet. Hard line, distinct control is wet on dry. And then the third one is dry brushing. This is kind of my favorite. This is like when you have a dry brush. We could call it like dry on dry, to be honest. I don't know why we don't call it that. But you could take a regular paintbrush for sure, but you could also use other objects as a brush and make completely different marks. So my paint is almost dry. It's like damp, just barely. Okay, and my applicator, in this case a sponge, is totally dry. Okay, and when you put them on, that is called dry brushing. Okay, so those are 3 ways that you can use watercolors. And as you notice, that's the same paper, that was the same, different brush, but the same color. 3 completely different ways to use your same single watercolor. Okay, so as you'll see in this full project that I'm about to be doing, I will be using a combination of these 3 with the same colors in the same piece, and see if you can really notice the effects of this plume, watery, squishy, faded goodness versus those distinct lines versus these this almost looks like acrylic paint, okay? Watercolor is such a cool medium, and it's wonderful in mixed media projects, but in order to get the most out of it, it really, should behoove you to master it as its own art supply first before introducing other supplies in with them. If you want to know which supplies marry very well with watercolors, you can refer to the video the eye in the corner of the screen, and that will take you a deep dive into watercolors, these Prima palettes, and also how you can make different color combinations with your palettes, and so much more. Now let's get into the main bulk of this project. couple of things. I want to do some dry brushing because I promised I would. I have a couple of different sea sponges. So I think we can, like, under here, it would be cool to kind of cover up this yucky part. So you can use these, like, the best way is that if your sponge is actually dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my dry sponge, that's probably too much water already, into a little puddle. Okay? I just dipped it in there. It's already too wet. So I'm going to actually see how it's pooling. That's used too much. So then I'm going to go see how there's just a tiny bit of liquid on there. I'm going to dip my sponge in that. And then apply this at the very, very bottom to add, like, the texture of the bottom of the frickin' thing. So cool. So let's try that. A different way would be to, like, so I'm gonna add some, like, where's that brown bear? Actually, you know what? I actually wanted to try the cavern. Right, so I'm just touching that with a wet brush. And then again, I'm gonna dip. It has to be wet enough that you can get it up on the sponge. So let's try that again. Just kind of pat, pat, pat with my mop. And then I'm dry stamping in here. Oh yeah, that works perfectly. Again, it's almost like acrylics when you do this. So there could be like a rock at the bottom, right? Or like over here. It's just such a lovely subtlety, and you can't get it with a brush at all. It could still be wetter, but seriously, having a puddle is too wet. So I'm just continuing to re-wet my little half pan, and that's exactly kind of the right amount. It looks so good, actually. Again, it's kind of a pain in the ass. Wet, but not too wet. Stamp. And, ooh, that was super luscious. God, there's kids like screaming outside. Ooh. Don't miss those days at all. So glad they're firmly behind us. So you get this completely different look than you do, but that just added like so much depth. And then another thing you could do is go in, same thing, with like a dry brush. As I say that, I wet my brush, but this one is totally, this one is like, it was super stiff from something that was on there. So this is not a watercolor brush. This is like a crappy acrylic, or I use it for gouache. Same thing. I'm gonna, like, this is just tacky. And then you can come up here and literally swipe it. And it makes an amazing effect. Which looks awesome. Okay, so you can see the texture that it leaves behind. And so it's a very intentional look, but that's perfect because you're, sort of reflecting the reflection. So I can do that same thing. Even my brush is still damp. Here's this is the darker brown. So making that, again, your pan should be tacky is the way you want it. Okay, and then you have this, but it's that texture leaving behind that makes kind of all the difference. All right, so as you can see, now this one was a little much. You can even stamp with your brush. My brush is damp. You can even use it to like, I'm doing a lot of stamping on this project. Use a damp brush to stamp and reactivate some of your dry brushing marks down here. super, super cool. So you have the wet on wet was the luscious under background. You had all this juiciness up top. The wet on dry, you have much more distinct, right? You can see the outline of the brush. Even though these are slippy, sloppy, moppy brush strokes, they're still defined by just the area of wetness that was created by the brush. And yeah, and then the dry brushing is super textured, and you can see, you know, each and every stroke. So 3 different awesome ways that you can use your watercolors.